It's June 20th, 2022. This is Roqe. Hi there, welcome to episode 187 of Roqe. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. Hope you're keeping well wherever you're tuning in from around the world. Hello to you from Toronto, Canada. Salam Dustan Aziz, Durud Bar Shoma. Hello, the fabulous Kian.
Hi, Jian.
Hello, Groovy Shaya.
Salam Aziz.
And hello, Captain Reza.
Hello, sir.
The Monday crew, all here. This is conversations from, to, and about the Iranian diaspora. Later in this show, guitarist, songwriter, producer, Khoshtip man.
Most importantly,
is it clear that it's a man when we say Khoshtip, or can it be a?
Yeah, Khoshtip khanum.
You can't be a Khoshtip khanum.
I don't think so.
I think of a male when I hear.
Khoshket.
But can he be Ziba? He can be Ziba.
He can be Ziba.
Right.
Actually, he can be Ziba.
Guitarist, songwriter, producer, Ziba. Peyman Salimi. What does it sound? It sounds wrong.
Khoshtip is more associated with a male,
it's like handsome,
a handsome,
right?
yeah.
Well,
That's
you can call me Ziba. In fact, you can just call me Ziba. I don't mind. That's simpler than Jian. Peyman Salimi, currently on tour with Ali Azimi. And he's got a new album coming out, a new bilingual album coming out that's Persian and English. This is Peyman Salimi I'm talking about. Ali Azimi just put out his new album. Peyman's new album comes out, but Peyman is currently touring with Ali. He opens the show with some of his solo stuff, plays with the Ali Azimi band, and Peyman will be performing right here.
That's awesome.
Right where you guys are sitting.
Can't wait.
We will extricate you from the the situation and put him in there. But before we get to Peyman Salimi in about an hour from now, we've got Shally Zomorodi coming up on the show, making her triumphant return
after a while
to Roqe. It's been it's been a couple of years.
Yeah.
2 years.
That's how long we've been going here.
Wow.
Exactly 2 years almost.
Yeah.
It was July of 2020.
The beginning, yeah.
The radiant, the wonderful Shally Zomorodi, of course, the anchor of Fox Morning News in San Diego, but famously now, I feel like Shally Zomorodi, just in the last 2 years that we've been doing this show, don't you think?
I do feel like that.
She's
way.
like I mean, people kind of knew her.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, the cool woman who's an anchor who does the Persian dancing. But now
everybody knows her by name.
She's like a superstar in the Persian community,
like
right?
everybody knows Shally by name. Yeah, that's crazy, actually.
And is that crazy?
It is, because I feel like it's because of us. She did an interview with us.
That's right. Post Roqe, next level. It wouldn't be her. Yeah,
it's not.
Wouldn't be all the hard work she's done, other than this interview. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Shally's got. She's part of why people find her so amazing is because as soon as they scratch beneath the surface of her cool dancing and things like her fun dancing, she's got a lot on the go. She's got her regular gig as an anchor. She does all of these other things. She of course famously has 4 kids and is very attentive to her family.
I would pay for a master class on how Shally does all that.
4
kids alone.
I got to bring this up with her. I don't believe it. I think there's assistance.
I want to know the secret.
I think there's a little army running around. Maybe there's even more than one Shally Zomorodi.
I'd be surprised.
Yeah. But now she's got a book that she's written, a kid's book, about with the subtext of bullying and how to get by as a unique, kind of based on her own story, but I know what she's seen in her daughter and her kids, and it's just I guess it's just been published, self-published, and she is appearing this weekend at the Seattle Iranian Festival with that book. So we're going to talk about the book, where Shally's at. She's going to be joining us from San Diego in just a few moments. You're excited about that, Shai?
Of course, yes. About Shally, you mean, or about Peyman? About Shally,
now I didn't think there was a distinction. Yeah, I know you're excited about Peyman.
Of course, yeah.
Have you ever performed with Peyman?
No, but I would love actually to work with him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's a great guitarist, and
Yes.
he's
He's a great producer.
He produces all the Ali Azimi records,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, correct.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Yeah,
Wow.
it sounds.
Salimi and Azimi.
And that's right. Thank you, Reza. And Peyman's got such an interesting story because he's kind of an Iranian of the diaspora now, but he left Iran almost 20 years ago, and first he goes to Italy.
Italy.
Yeah, like he's Iranian-Italian. In fact, he was in Italy for over 10 years, based out of Florence, where he had this Firenze, you know, what you know as Firenze.
That's right. Yeah.
Might I say I'm jealous? I wonder what that was like.
I know, and he started a rock band in Florence, and now he lives in Belgium.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I would move back to Florence.
Yeah, you would
Belgium
sit in the
sounds
sun.
cool.
This guy writes music.
Just lost our Belgian audience. That was our burgeoning
All
Belgian.
5 of them.
Hey, come on.
Hey,
Let's start
a big
somewhere.
thank you to Hamid Reza Safipour for helping to make this episode of Roqe get to your ears and eyes wherever you're listening around the world. Hamid Safipour, Luxury Custom Homes. Look, if you're in the Toronto area or an Iranian Canadian, you probably know the name Safipour, right?
I've
You
heard
guys-
the
For
name.
sure.
Yeah.
Synonymous with
course.
luxury.
That's right. You would know. That's right. So here's the story. Hamid got his master's in civil engineering, got into the field of building and consulting on luxury homes over 3 decades ago. In the last 20 years, Team Hamid and Nina, that's his partner, Team Hamid and Nina, have made the Safipour name one of the tops in the business, a name you can trust to buy your dream land and build your dream house. Safipour Luxury Homes have now teamed up with Remax, and they're also moving into doing exotic high-rises that are, from what I understand, are beyond things that we have seen in Toronto before. This is the new level of where the bar is being set by Hamid Safipour. If you are thinking to buy or sell or build your dream house, if you're anywhere near the Toronto area, or if you're interested in buying here, get in touch with Safipour. How do you spell Safipour? Quick, Kian.
Saffi.
Nope.
No?
There's not 2 F's.
Safipour.
Close, but it's
Think,
O-O,
no?
actually.
Oh, you see?
It's O-O-R, Safipour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, close.
Safipour.com, simple as that, or 416-87, he's giving a phone number.
Wow.
Yeah.
Call
416-876-4918, which is also the email you write, 416-876-4918, safipour.com. Thank you to Hamid Reza Safipour. Also, got to tell you about this guy. A big thank you to Ali Qambari for helping to make this episode of Roqe possible. So Ali is the president of Cherry Street Coffee House in Seattle. Now, I'm guessing if you're listening to us in Seattle right now, you know Cherry Street Coffee House. Because if you're on the west coast of the U.S., you know this awesome independent. I don't want to say it's a chain, because I know that each location is very unique, but I think there's 4 locations of Cherry Street Coffee House. It's all about culture and community, and Ali built this coffee house and has fostered that sense of community. So Cherry Street Coffee House in Seattle. Ali is also the founder of the IACA, the nonprofit Iranian-American Community Alliance, and he's the guy in Seattle who started organizing the Seattle Iranian Festival. Who knew?
Right.
Well, people in Seattle know, because it's been almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
But I mean, who knew that? I mean, there's a burgeoning Persian community in Seattle, and we've done
burgeoning?
Babak Khiafchi,
Yes.
Haji
Right.
Partovi. Like, we've talked to some folks who were
What a bit.
in Seattle. But so there's this Seattle Iranian Festival. It's this weekend coming up, June 25th. Seattle's a beautiful place.
I've never been.
Oh, it's
No.
beautiful. I mean, it's West Coast, West Coast beauty.
I like it.
But it's kind of,
I love it actually.
it reminds me, it's very architecturally beautiful, and
Chicago.
no.
But on the waterfront.
It's on the water, yeah.
I've
Not
heard it's
quite as
really
hippy dippy as like Portland, but
super gray though. That's one thing that kind of drew
Is
me
it?
away.
Have you
I've
been?
heard someone once told me it has maybe I shouldn't say
Someone or
this.
someone?
Someone once told me.
When she speaks, I don't know if she's talking
It
about
has-
her
I don't know what
fiance.
she's
No,
saying. Yeah.
someone once told me that it has the highest suicide rate because it's gray most of the
Wow,
time. I
that's
probably shouldn't say that out.
terrible.
On air.
Yeah, that is. Well,
It's a
that's
disincentive
great
for people
But
to
Seattle.
go
it's
to-
wonderful.
No,
Let's be
come on.
crazy.
It's wonderful. People just
I like
kill
that you've
themselves.
never been there.
I've never been
no,
there.
No, that's
that's why I didn't
it's
go.
true that the West Coast in general, this is true of Vancouver as
Yeah.
well, that because the weather is more conducive to being outside all year round, there are folks who couldn't survive in the winter on the streets of Montreal or something, who go out to the West Coast because it's so then maybe a more homeless or what are we talking
I
about?
have no
Why
idea.
did you go there?
I don't know.
This poor Seattle's
Anyway.
a beautiful
I want to
city.
go to this coffee place.
Yeah. Well, apparently you might want to commit
But also,
suicide.
did
According
you
to
know that Starbucks started in Seattle?
Yes.
So it makes me want to go to this coffee
See,
house.
that's what you
because-
should have
No,
said.
I wouldn't
John.
even- that's
Lead
right.
with that next time.
Cherry Street Coffee House, the Seattle Iranian Festival, a beautiful city.
Yes.
Jesus, I
I
mean,
ruined it. I know.
we
I
got
know.
this.
I'd love to go.
There's actually a
now.
lot of
This
people
far.
listening to us in Seattle.
I
We've
had to
lost
bite my
Belgium.
tongue.
Did you?
I mean, Keon is just like
I know.
it's like
She disregarded
I-
Belgium.
you know
like
the
it was
game where
nothing.
the whack-a-mole, like you go to
Listen.
go to like a music park and you have to hit the mole.
These are the-
She just knocks off all of our fans.
does not let one slide.
This is what I've heard about Seattle, but I'm sure it's beautiful. I'd love to visit.
Great.
Didn't Nirvana also start in
Yes.
Seattle? Yeah, there's a lot of cool
Another
stuff
thing
out
you
of
could have led with instead
Yeah.
of suicide.
Back in the 90s, my band, we played in the bar that Nirvana started in.
Wow.
No way.
Yeah.
That's
in
really
Seattle.
cool.
I mean, the whole grunge movement basically started there,
Yeah.
right? Because also Pearl Jam and
Yeah, yeah.
Soundgarden, I think they were all Seattle bands.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, Seattle. It's a great city.
Have you been, Shaya?
Yes. I was there for a month
lived-
actually.
Wow.
and-
A month?
Yeah, I was.
You were in Seattle for a
Yeah,
month?
Yeah.
Did you ever go to Cherry Street Coffee House?
No,
Oh.
I didn't have a chance to
Your
go
loss.
there. But I went to Bruce Lee shrine is there, and like Jimmy.
Bruce Lee's
you?
shrine
Yeah, I mean.
is in Seattle?
Yeah.
I wonder what that connection is.
I think he was born in Seattle.
Bruce Lee?
Yeah, Bruce Lee was born in. Bruce Lee is American. He was born in Seattle.
Oh, really?
But you guys didn't know
Okay,
this?
well.
His father was American.
I am.
We
We are
should-
way,
we need a
way
fact.
off topic here.
Way
But I'm
off.
going. I'm checking this out. Bruce Lee.
I think he
No,
was
he's
born-
American for sure.
Yeah,
But
but I think
he was born
in
in San Francisco.
San Francisco. Sorry. My bad.
No, but
West Coast.
But,
You were
West
close.
Coast.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
think his shrine. I mean, what do his grave? What his
His
thing-
Is
tomb,
buried there?
Yeah.
his قبرش اونجاست.
Bruce Lee. خدا بیامرزه.
Okay, well,
Ruhish and Shad.
we've learned a lot about Seattle today.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
everyone in
so
my room
this.
was
Well, listen. If this doesn't get our fans in Seattle, our fledgling following in Seattle is either loving this or angry at us right now.
I love Persian community in Seattle.
Thank you,
Yeah?
Shad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I also I've been to Seattle a few times and really liked it. And to me, it was kind of like if you took Toronto, some of the best qualities of Toronto.
Yeah.
It's smaller than Toronto, but you took Toronto, and put it on the West Coast, on the
Oh.
ocean.
Isn't that Vancouver?
No, Vancouver.
mountainy.
Vancouver's
Right.
beautiful, and the vibe, and that's the thing. I don't feel like Seattle is as West Coast man
Got it.
as
Yeah.
people don't talk slower the way they do.
I
And
see.
now we've
So
lost
it's-
Vancouver.
Now we lost one. Just knock him
Whack-a-mole,
out,
whack-a-mole. Yeah.
man. One after another.
Thank you to Ali Khambari, Seattle Iranian Festival. Well, he got a 15-minute promo. Out of this.
Listen, man,
You know.
Was it a promo though?
It was everything.
I like Keon.
Of
Isn't
Seattle?
that the place where people kill themselves?
The place.
No.
What do I know? I've never been, and that's what
No,
I heard
and then
about
she
it.
revealed all the good stuff about
That's
Seattle.
right. That's right. We all talked about Seattle.
Yeah.
All right. There you go. Hey, later in the show, maybe right after Shally, I want to bring in there's a Roqe team member whose birthday is today and who celebrated his first Father's Day.
I know what you're
Because I think it's his
talking
first.
about.
Yeah, this is the first Father's Day when he's been a father.
Oh.
So we'll have to bring him in for a
it's gonna be
little
fun.
birthday celebration. Yesterday was Father's Day, and I was thinking about my dad.
Oh,
Yeah, a lot yesterday.
May he rest
I mean,
in peace.
yeah, may he rest in peace for sure. My dad,
sure.
it's been about 8 years now since he died. And my dad had a really hard life. You know, you wouldn't know it if you met him. He was kind of the life of the party. He was the life of the party in Persian. In English, some of the jokes didn't land as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Still good
I
though.
think it's all Persian
but
dads.
he would laugh at the jokes, and so then you would laugh because he was laughing. But in Persian, he was amazing. Anyway, he had a tough, like, you know, as you guys know, born in Abadan, Khuzestan, and his dad was an industrialist, but his dad died, my grandfather, when my dad was 15. And my dad had 7 siblings, and my dad was the oldest. So he basically became the de facto the father of the family. Had to put himself through school, had to run the business. They moved to Tehran. There's 8 kids or 7 or 8 kids, and then the second oldest, who's suffering from a disease that kind of affected him, drowned in their pool, my dad's in his 20s, and you know, my dad is just has to help the family do it. So, and one of the reasons why I always think about that first wave of immigrants, and I'm so honored and blown away by what the Iranian immigrants, that first wave who came in the 60s and 70s, pre-revolution. And one of the reasons I have my dad's name tattooed on my arm is because, you know, my dad did 2 things. One, he left with my mom way before, you know, they left on the presumption that they wanted to try and build a good life for the kids that they were going to have. Of course, they thought they might return to Iran. That didn't happen after the revolution, obviously, but they came west with that. But my dad also, you know, the family, there's a certain status the family had in Iran. He said to his siblings who stayed in Iran, "I don't want anything. I'm going to go build a new life in another place." So he left everything that had been built to the family in Iran. And I think about people migrating at that time, and obviously you guys have migrated, but more recently, and I migrated from England to Canada. But think about, you know, the 60s or the 70s. Think about leaving Iran, going, and my mom and dad first they went to Scotland, and then they go down to London. This is a time when you can't, we've talked about this a little bit on the show before, but you can't, you know, you're not going to get to England and hop on Instagram and see how your friends are doing. I mean, or contact people, or, you know, even know. I mean,
long distance phone calls back.
Not even phone. You couldn't even do phone calls. They were so prohibitively expensive that basically that you would have to. They arrived in the UK and would write a letter and then wait for weeks to get. So it's a form of migration that we will never experience, right? I mean, we will never know what it's like to go. I could move to Shanghai tomorrow, and I'd be like talking to you guys on WhatsApp, and it's pretty cool, and Googling things. I mean, so I think about these pioneers of it really wasn't that long ago, but of Iranian migration. And for someone like my dad, who'd been through so much, had taken on so much responsibility, you know, there was no partying for my dad in his teens and 20s, you know, and by his mid-30s he leaves Iran, and then it commits himself to building this new lifestyle for his family, first in England, and then in Canada at a time also when we've talked about where there wasn't as big an immigrant community here. There wasn't as big an Iranian community, that's for sure. So he was building from scratch, you know, and dealing with the requisite chauvinism or prejudices or whatever that come with being a Middle Eastern person in the 80s and 90s here, you know, post hostage crisis and all of that, heavy accent, and I just think what a life, you know. And my dad, by his last 20 years, was this sage man who was just all about love. He'd become very liberal in his thinking in terms of some of the social conservatism that he had from the old country had sort of melted away, and he was just this wise, lovely man that everybody wanted to be around, you know. And he built that through his life, you know. He kind of he continued to evolve. People are not stuck in whoever they are when they're 20 or 30 or 40 or 50. He just kept evolving. Anyway, I didn't intend to tell this long a story about my dad, but I was thinking about him yesterday. I'm sure you guys were. Everybody was thinking about their dads, you know. But there's something about those first waves of Iranian dads.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about the power, the importance, the centrality of Iranian moms.
Yeah.
But those Iranian dads who was kind of all on him, this guy, you know.
Yeah, one of my best friends is actually, we migrated, like we met here, but he's much older than me and he's got a family. He migrated to Canada, stayed here for 5 or 6 years without his family, while his family was back home, trying to sponsor them. He would send money. I remember he was living in a shared apartment, like he was. That's what my dad did. Yeah, my dad moved here to Canada 9 months before us, so we were in. There's a whole other story about how strong and brave I think my mom was, who was like holding down the fort. She had to sell the house in London and everything. My dad had moved here. And I remember he would once a week he would call us at 6 p.m. on Sundays, and I told this story before about how I was afraid that. Do you remember why I was afraid?
He grew up weird.
I wrote about it in my book. I was so afraid that when we come to Canada, I kept on seeing my dad would have a beard, and I don't know why that would scare me, you know. But
how many years did you were you guys apart?
I think 9.
No, about a year, 9 months.
Okay.
So he moved ahead of us and kind of set up. The idea was he was going to set up shop here, but exactly what your friend's talking about. Lived in a little apartment, and so my parents are apart for 9 months. And again, there's like one phone call a week. There is not a lot of, you know, they're not flying back and forth or whatever.
Yeah, I was away from my parents too. I mean, it's Father's Day too, so shout out to my dad and all the great dads who.
Is your dad not here?
He is here.
Oh,
he is here, and he listens to the show every now and again. He doesn't understand all of it, but my mom tries to translate incorrectly. But it's no, shout out to both of them. But I was thinking about it. Actually, the other day that the past 10 years really hasn't been I haven't felt like the not being in touch with my parents as much, and especially more so the last 5 or 6 years, even more so because FaceTime technology, as you said, you don't feel a distance and disconnect. I'm talking
even Shally Zomorodi, who is coming up in a second. In fact, we should get to her, but even I don't feel that. I feel like I know her because I'm seeing her on social media, and obviously you can't believe everything. But you know, we feel closer to people, and certainly family that you're in touch with, you're FaceTiming with. It's a totally different animal.
Different ball game. Like people celebrate Father's Day right now over Zoom with each other.
Here's a simple thing. You know what people look like now. Right? True. You know, people back in the day, literally, and we're not even talking even 20 years ago. You would have to wait. You would go, I wonder what Reza back in Tehran looks like. I haven't seen him in 2 years. Right?
Yeah. You get drunk in the middle of the night and you FaceTime your cousin. You're like, what are you doing?
Shai, did you reach out to your dad for Father's Day or
no? It wasn't Father's Day in Iran.
Oh, that's right.
Oh yeah, I did that, by the way. I called my dad yesterday. I was like, Happy Father's Day. He's like, Father's Day is I'm like, oh, okay, never mind.
He was insulted.
It's different in Iran. Father's Day is on a different day.
Yeah. It's like Arabic day.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
Let's not open that can of worms. Someone here sitting with
coming to you on roqemedia.com. It's there that you can link to all of our platforms. We are on an ongoing mission to build a new audiovisual encyclopedia of Iranian diaspora identity. Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, CastBox. If you'd like to see some visuals with Roqe, switch over to YouTube. If you like your Roqe descriptions and bulletins in English and Persian, check us out on Telegram. And you can become a patron of this program. Support us by pressing the Support Us button at our website, roqemedia.com. If you haven't been there, visit it, please. roqemedia.com. Everything Roqe, all of our old programs, different programs, funnies, videos, they're all there. All right. See you on the other side. Let's get to our first featured guest. my first featured guest today is an American award-winning journalist and anchor of Iranian descent. Shally Zomorodi has been recognized as the face of Fox 5 Morning News in San Diego for more than a decade. She was born and raised in California, graduated from California State University, Fullerton, where she received degrees in communication and political science. Before joining Fox News San Diego, Shally worked as a video journalist, reporter, producer, news assistant, anchor for numerous news programs and television stations. Through her work, she has interviewed many politicians and celebrities, and now Shally adds author to her list of accomplishments. She recently published a fine little book entitled Myla Caterpillars Become Butterflies. It's very charming, and it has lovely animations for children struggling with bullying and racism, although I think it's a good lesson for adults as well. This coming weekend, June 25th, Shally is appearing at the Seattle Iranian Festival. But first, right now, Shally Zomorodi joins me once again from San Diego, California. Hello!
I applaud for myself. You just made me feel so old, Jian. Thank you.
Wait, which part of that made you feel old?
I did this and then I did this. And it's like the older you get, the longer that list becomes of all the things that we've done. And there was still stuff missing from it.
So you're half angry at me for listing them all, and half angry that I missed it. I mean, a guy can't catch a break. You are the busiest woman in show business, right?
I am fairly busy. Yes. I feel like there's just so much I want to do, and there's just not enough time during the day.
An unending appetite, it seems you have, for all of the things you do. I'm still convinced that it's all a lie. Like there's 14 assistants running around and Red Bulls everywhere. You know, I can't believe you're just you.
Okay, I don't drink Red Bull, number one. And number two, I don't do like assistants. I have a lot of family around me. I have like good people around me, but I'm baffled with the stories that people come up with that I do this and I have like all this. No, it's just me, crazy me.
What about child labor? It's germane to today's conversation. Do you have the kids working for you? Is that part of what's going on here?
Wow, that's a good idea. I should put my kids to work.
Let me start with, first of all, I want to talk about, I mean, there's a couple of things that we're going to talk about, the Seattle Festival, and I want to mention your cooking show before we end off too, but talking about this book, Myla, Caterpillars Become Butterflies, I'll get into all that's wonderful about it, but I have a bone to pick. For who will speak for poor caterpillars? Why do we always want to be butterflies? Can we not be a caterpillar in the corner of a bar, enjoying a pint, minding our own business?
We do. And the whole point of all this book, which is right here, by the way, is that we're beautiful as caterpillars. And somebody tells us that we're not good, even though caterpillars are just as beautiful as these big butterflies. So, you know, when I started to write this book, it was something that I wanted to do for a million years, and it was on the back burner. And then, now that my kids are in school, they're starting to come home, and the stories are, Mom, he said my face is like this, or why is your eyebrow, like my daughter came and said, they said, why is my eyebrow like this? Why do I have hair everywhere? And that was it for me. I'm like, okay, Mommy's gonna go to work. And it took me a few years, and it was quite the journey. But this is a half story of myself growing up and watching my kids growing up now in school and the stuff that I hear kids say to them. And it's just I'm hoping as a reminder. And Jian, let me tell you, when this book came out, let's put aside the kids that I met when I do these book signings, and you see the tears swelling up in their eyes when they see me, and they drop their head and they say, Shally, they're mean to me at school, or they make fun of my eyebrows or whatnot. Jian, the adults that collapse into my arms with tears and say, Shally, I never turned into a butterfly. And I'm holding them and I'm like, no, but honey, you're beautiful. You're that beautiful caterpillar butterfly. What are you talking about? And it's amazing that how many people carry that pain through their whole entire lives, from childhood all the way to adults.
Yeah, I do feel I'm more of a large large-nosed caterpillar than a than a butterfly. It suits my brand better, I think. But let me unpack some of what you've just said, because first of all, I'm not surprised you're getting that reaction. The book, it's a slight book. It's not a huge tome. People can, some people are afraid of books these days. Don't be afraid of this one. You can read it quite quickly. You can read it with your kids, but it really has a lovely spirit to it. I wonder, when you thought about writing something like this, you said, I've had this idea for years. And in our last chat, when I interviewed you a couple of years ago, we went through your story and how, despite being, the superstar in the Persian community and beyond, and in Southern California, well known as an anchor now, and despite being a beauty queen, literally, the Orange County beauty queen, all of that, that you struggled with some of this, not fitting in, not feeling like you were pretty, all of that when you were young. When you first conceived of writing something like this, did you conceive of it as, oh, this is going to be a Shally memoir, or did you always see it as a kid's book?
It was always a kid's book. It was always something I wanted to do for kids, but it was using, the one eyebrow of Shally, because that was kind of me, and the curly hair, because I'm like a combo of me, and then I'm looking at my daughter, and then I'm looking at my son, and I'm hearing all these stories, and all of this just kind of came together as one. I'm like, wow, things haven't changed much since when I went to school. What can we learn from that? What can I teach my kids? How can I teach them what do I tell them when somebody says this? Because nobody really, I remember my dad used to tell me, tell the kids that your eyes are so big so that you can see right through them. And I tried that, and they would laugh at me. And now I've learned so much that I tell my kids, a different narrative. I tell them how to handle things a little differently, because yes, some things are the same, but man, our world has changed since I was a kid. Let
me ask you about you, because this is if you've talked about it being a combo of you have a daughter named Shyla, so Myla is half Shally, half Shyla. Did you just remind us? You is it really true that nobody wanted to be friends with Shally Zomorodi when you were a kid?
Oh, Jian, I got stood up at dances. I remember asking the cute boy out on a date, and he would just run the other way. Yes, it's very true. I had a really hard time. I remember during International Day, I wanted to showcase the culture from the other side of the world, and I would put on my dance costume and dance. They would throw gum at me in my hair. So yes, I was and where I grew up, a lot of blonde, blue eye, very different. And then here comes Shally with dark hair, one eyebrow, it was just different when I was growing up. Things have changed now. In Southern California, it's like Tehran everywhere. So you feel much more common. My kids, it's very normal for them to have a lot of other Iranians in school.
Well, let me ask you about that, because when you talk about seeing your kids go through the same stuff, the orthodox expectation would be that people of our generation had it much harder when we were kids, especially as Iranian immigrants, after the revolution, the hostage crisis, whereas kids today enjoy life more of a mosaic and get a lot of reinforcement that being unique is okay, even good these days. Do you notice that with your kids? Is it true that they might have it easier, or in what ways do you see the same things happening with them?
That's a great question. I think that in some ways they have it a lot easier. I don't think they're as, I don't want to say the word embarrassed. They're much more proud to say that they're Iranian. When International Day comes up, they roll out that go do Iran they're so proud of it, and it makes me so happy to say, Mommy, can you come and celebrate Nowruz in our class for us? I love all that. Having said that, Jian, this generation of kids is dealing with a whole host of other very serious issues that I think come in the world of mental health and just society and values and depression and anxiety. Not that I'm saying we didn't have that back then, but there's definitely something funky going on right now, for sure, with our kids.
How does given that Shyla is being name checked as part of the inspiration for this book, tell me about how I'm imagining. I mean, you're such a good mom. We see that even in your activities on social media there tends to be a lot of family oriented stuff. I feel like I know your family. I'm sure many people around the world who follow you do. I'm guessing you probably sat down with Shyla and said, "How do you feel about me talking about you being an inspiration for this book?" What did she say?
Oh, she loved it. And Myla's in her room. She sleeps with Myla. She's not as keen to me sharing her videos and images as much on social. Even my little one, Shaden, has picked up when mommy's recording. And there's few people that have, I think, noticed that I share sometimes a lot less with the kids. As they're getting older, I think they've realized people know them. And I'm respectful when they come to me and say, "Mommy, no, I don't want you to share this, or don't take a photo of me." So if you see less of my kids, that's why. And sometimes they want to be on. So no, I'm not that mom that puts them in there. Shyla loves to dance at home. She doesn't like to be recorded all the time. Where she was a baby, she was always, dancing. But this book, and I'm hoping that what I did with this, and I hope it inspires a lot of people to do things that you can leave something with yourself, with the kids, with people's children. This is something that I said, you know what? My cousin, by the way, who I haven't seen in 40 years, who lives in Iran, illustrated this book.
Azadeh is your cousin?
Azadeh is my cousin. I did a search on social media when I decided to do this. I wanted to find the illustrator on social media, so I put it out there. I said, look, I'm writing a children's book. How cool would this be if I can find somebody who would like to do this with me? And then I came to find out that my first cousin, who I haven't seen in 40 years, is an artist. And we worked together for over a year on WhatsApp and Telegram. And while I'm driving to work at 4 a.m, having conversations with her. And she illustrated the entire book. And I remember when this book finally printed and it came out, it was a very emotional moment for both of us. And I said, Azadeh, I haven't seen you in 40 years. Look what we just left for our kids. And we were able to do this on the other side of the planet without being in the same room, not even for a minute. And through technology and Zooms and Skypes and all this, we left something for our kids that nobody will ever take this from us.
Yeah.
By Shali, illustrated by Azadeh.
Yeah, what an amazing story.
Yeah.
I mean, a part of what's great about this is that it feels like it's something that you're living. It's hard to find the book patronizing or top down or something when it's kind of a story that you've embodied. People tell Myla she's not going to make it in the world. Can you relate to that?
Yes, I mean, that's the story of my life. They told me I was never going to make it, and hi, friends, we're here. We're doing it. We're living the dream. And I mean, this book, I've had so many grown-ups that message me and say, Shali, I'm still being bullied today. Jian, I am bullied on social media on an hourly, minute-by-minute basis.
You are?
Are you kidding me?
Well,
yes.
I'm not. No, I guess I could. I mean, but it's just there's so much overwhelming love for you but I bet you focus on the bad stuff probably, right?
No,
you see the bad ones.
Focus on the bad stuff, but regardless of who you are and how strong you are, I'm a pretty strong cookie. I've been doing this for a really, really long time, and my skin is pretty tough. Having said that, I'm still a human. I still have emotions. I can still hurt, and when you open your phone every day, yes, there's an overwhelmingly amount of love, but sometimes that rage and that hate can hurt sometimes. I'm not immune to that.
What do they bully you for at this stage?
Oh gosh, there's all kinds of bullies that just hide behind this computer. I mean, it's in my book. Computers are now where they hide.
Yeah.
They hide behind a computer, behind an account that has no photo, some made-up name. And, people still, even from here that live in the States, I've had a handful of messages telling me people to go back to my country.
Right.
To people on the other side of the world that said, like, I can't stand you dancing another minute. You're making me crazy. I mean, they say it in worse language, but
Yeah, it's true. How dare you dance so much?
How dare I dance so much? Dancing is so
It's such a
bad.
funny thing with such a funny thing with social media, where almost 99% of the criticisms can be answered with, why don't you stop following me? Why don't you stop looking? Go somewhere else.
Right? The funniest thing is they say, unfollow and I can't stand you, and then they list everything that you've done for the past 4 years, and then you go to their account and you're like, who is this? And they're still following you, and they're still watching you. And it's okay, because I know with everything that I do, whether it's the book and the dancing, and now I'm very immersed in the world of mental health and mental well-being, that either you're going to relate with me because you see the light and you see things that I'm doing, and your glasses are in the same shade as myself, or I'm triggering something in you. I'm triggering. I had a message from a woman, Jian, who was like this long, came from an anonymous account, one of those no pictures again. And she said, Shally, I hate you so much. I hate you dancing. You get on my nerves. Your laugh gets on my nerves. You're just getting on my nerves. And one day I asked myself, why do I hate Shally so much? And then she started to go on and say, I'm having these issues with my dad. And then she started to explain, just went on and on about her sister, that she's having some financial issues. And then she said, there was one day that the light bulb just went on. And I said, oh my gosh, I hate Shally because I wish that I was free to live like her, to laugh like her, to love like her, to dance like her.
Right.
I wish I had that freedom. So I want to apologize to you, Shally, for hating on you. And I want to apologize on behalf of all these people that do this to you. Please know that it's because they're not happy with themselves in their life. I mean, that's just the gist of it.
It's not even really about you in a case like that. You're an avatar for something that they're feeling.
Yeah. So
let me ask you how you navigate as a mother and as the author of this book, how you navigate the idea that not everything is bullying. So, it's so important and great, and I kind of wish that we had more of this when we were kids, which wasn't that long ago, but even 2-3 decades ago, 4 decades ago, there was less focus on bullying. There was less focus on the positivity of being unique, and yet I also would not want. We don't want a new generation that thinks everyone who disagrees with them or criticizes or has an idea that's different from theirs is bullying them. How do you teach them that critical thinking is okay, or somebody disagreeing with you is okay, and that's not bullying, but these are the things that are?
That's a great question. And that is a conversation that we have every day in this house. I have 4 kids. Myself and my husband have 6 personalities in this house. And we are constantly talking about the fact that not all of us are going to agree. Not all of us are going to like the same things. Not all of us want the same things. But there's still, Jian, a kindness that we can have that I think it's crossing the line. I don't like a lot of things. I don't like a lot of people. Don't mistake anti-bullying means that you just got to say everybody is so good and yay for everybody and everybody gets a trophy. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite. I'm constantly teaching my kids, honey, you don't win everything in life. Life is about falling down and then learning to get back up again. Life is pain. Life is pain, right? But what are you going to do with that pain? I just want to teach my kids, have an opinion, be respectful about it. Disagree, be respectful about it. There is a point where bullying becomes so much about intimidating and scaring and pushing somebody down that I don't want my kids ever to be a part of, ever to make somebody feel that way. I just don't think it's necessary. You can disagree with somebody and not grind them into a ground. I mean, that's my opinion.
How do they deal with each other on that question? I mean, do they do any of your kids have more trouble with that than others in terms of disagreeing or taking criticism or making sure that they don't bully each other?
I think my little one, Shaden, who's 3, I call him Mr. Goldor. I see that personality coming up in him. My second one, Arshan, I work with him a lot because you can see he was the second one, so he tries to like bully his way around his siblings. But we just had a conversation last night at like 9:30 at night. I'm trying to teach these little souls how to listen to one another. And I was telling Shyla, they were having a disagreement about who looked at who first, and then I commended her for looking at my son and listening to him and not interrupting him, and then speak your mind, and then tell him how you're feeling. The one thing that I'm learning, Jian, so much as I'm diving into the world more and more, and I'm trying to use this platform that I've created in the world of mental, whatever you want to call it, wellness, being, because I see every day in my life, working as a journalist and especially doing news for 4 or 5 hours a day, I see people, for the most part, their pain in their life. And a lot of this, the source of it, stress, anxiety, depression. Look at all these shootings that we've had recently.
Yes.
I'm just I'm leaning into this as much as I can. And with every psychologist, psychiatrist, all these experts that have been studying this their entire lives, one of the foundations of this is learning how to express yourself and to talk about things and sit with these emotions. And that's what I'm trying to teach my kids to do right now, is what do you do in the face of anger? What do you do when you're faced with pain, deception, fear? These are the things that I think maybe all of us didn't learn when we were kids. We were just kids and we just watched people and learned. But now I'm really trying to be mindful about how I teach them. So I can release these little as I say, jigars in the world, and maybe they can go out and change the world a little bit.
Let me come back to a strand on that in just a second. But I just wanted to ask you a bit more about the book. It's interesting. You self-published this book.
Yes.
And I kind of love how DIY that is, do it yourself. That's part of your whole, back to the joke about you having all the assistants and everything. You are somebody who likes to do the things yourself and involve those close to you, as you've now talked about your cousin being the helping with the animations and the drawings and the illustrations. But why self-publish? You could have probably easily attracted a major publisher to this, given your large fan base now and your pedigree. Tell me about that decision.
I like it, my pedigree. I wanted to do this on my own, and I actually reached out to so many people who were self-publishing, and I wanted to learn the process. And it was fascinating publishing this book on my own, learning how to format, how to find somebody, where to publish, the mistakes that I made. Now, maybe the third book, because this won't be the last book I write. I'm already working on something pretty big that's coming out, hopefully in the next 9 months. And maybe next time, because of the lessons that I learned here, say, you know what, this time I'm going to have somebody else handle it for me. But I also found out in self-publishing, there's more profit that I can keep from these books.
Hell yeah.
If I do it myself. And we use the money from these books as a tool to donate back to so many different charities. And I wanted this to be a tool for that. That's why you don't see it on Amazon. Because you sell it on Amazon. If you're ever thinking about putting your book up, I wouldn't have made more than a few dimes, yeah, on that book.
Although I just want to issue a warning to people out there that it is easier, not easier, but it is more beneficial if you're self-publishing to have the kind of following that you have. I mean, to have a platform, which you already have, to let people know. You know, folks who self-publish normally and don't have a gazillion followers on social media, for example, nobody finds out about the book. I mean, that's you usually seek a major publisher to be able to get that book on the stand in the airport or at the cafe or whatever. But you still, it still would have been easier for you to get Random House or Penguin or whatever to do all that work, and you take a little share. So I thought it was a really inspired decision on your part.
It's my first book. I mean, it was. I did this all on my own. The idea came up on my own. I had a lot of late nights. The thought, maybe I'll do it differently next time. But this journey and learning through all of these things, everything that I do, whether it was the pageants that I did many, many years ago, whether it's the book, whether it's the retreat and conference mental health awareness that I'm starting to do, all of this is a journey, and I'm learning something from it. And I actually enjoy this process. And it felt so good at the end. When I set my mind to it, I don't care how long it took. It's almost like with the DAF that I'm learning that drum thing. Oh my goodness. It's like,
I'm sure the family's enjoying that.
I'm starting a band, Jian. I got everybody on an instrument in this house. Mark my words, in 15 years, I'm going to put you at the front row of our concert, and you're going to be like, look what she did. Look what she did.
I can't wait. I was more referring to what it must sound like to hear somebody practicing the DAF 10 hours a day.
I know what you were referring to.
There's a doll named Myla as well. Is that true?
Yeah,
You've got something about you're going to have a doll and a book coming out at the same time.
Yeah, my doll did come out. I have Myla is a doll. So watching my Shyla, she always carries a little doll under her arm. So I had this one also created. I did it on my own. Found somebody that could duplicate this, and you can get the book and the doll.
And what's this? I didn't understand. I saw you on some live saying that you're going to, maybe I got this wrong. I don't want to throw you under the bus. You're going to deliver the book and sign it for people? Like you'll personally turn up and do that? Is that something you're planning to do because you have so much time on your hands?
Jian, yes, of course. I mean, I made it for the people I want to see, my friends. And you call them followers. I think it's the creepiest word. Like when people say they follow me, I'm like, please don't say that. Say we're friends on social. I hope we're friends and you're not one of the, as I call them, the salty ones.
I consider myself a follower of yours, not a friend.
Don't say that,
disciple,
John, that's creepy. I love doing book signings, so I was excited when they asked me to do the Seattle Festival, which I've never been to Seattle, so this is kind of cool in all these years. They asked if I would bring my book up. So yes, I'm taking my book up in opportunities like this. When I go out, I sign the book. You can get the doll in the book, and I'll write a little note. And you'll have to get the book to see the note that I leave in the front cover. Yeah,
I really wanted to make sure we mentioned that a couple of times before I let you go, which is that this weekend you're at this Seattle Iranian Festival. First of all, I love that there's apparently a wonderful festival in Seattle. That's the Seattle Iranian Festival that's been going on for almost a couple of decades. Shally will be there June 25th. I know there's a bunch of people who listen to us in the northwest of the U.S. So if you're anywhere near Seattle, run, don't walk. Get yourself to Seattle this weekend for the Seattle Iranian Festival. Shally's just part of that. Listen, before I go, let me ask you a couple of general questions. I mean, this kind of is part of the book, but you are notoriously positive. I mean, seeing you on social media is always an exercise in this whirlwind of great energy, smiles, positivity. I'm assuming that's a conscious decision. Right? Tell me about that, about the decision to not, show yourself down. Do you show yourself when you're down?
I have shown myself down. I have shown myself without makeup. I have shown myself in struggles. I have tried to show myself as real as I possibly. I'm not putting on a facade for, even though some think that I'm showing off or whatever they're thinking. I'm trying to show the realities of what my life as a news anchor, mom to four, somebody who 20 plus years has been getting up, in the middle of the night, somebody who's been married for 17 years. I am very open about the struggles in my life. I talk about the fact that I go to a psychologist every few weeks. I have for many years for my own mental well-being and balance. And it is a conscious decision. And I mentioned this to you last time, I think, when we did this podcast, and I tell a lot of people. I watch people's lives change like this every single day.
Yeah.
People who get in car accidents, people who lose family members to illnesses, war that happens, accidents that happen every single day, Jian, for more than 20 years. So when I see people living in such pain and realizing that a lot of times it's not even in their control, I make a conscious decision in my life, even when it's hard sometimes, because it is hard sometimes to do it, to shift and live in this world rather than this world. I can live in this world. It would be very easy for me to live in this world.
So you're doing something with your hands, and this world being a more positive outlook, kind
world, optimistic world, just a higher energy, uplifting world.
Well, that's kind of where I was going with it. I didn't mean to suggest at all that you're not authentic, because that is all of what you are. But that it seems to me that you believe, and I hear this sometimes, especially in the Iranian community. Like, I think some of what connects with people, some of what's resonating with people from Shally Zomorodi is that is that you provide a relief, is that we can be shod, we can feel positive, we can enjoy we can celebrate our families, we can dance, we can do it, because there is, to be fair, so much for us to be sad or frustrated or miserable about, that we almost need to consciously create the conditions where we can find a balance. And I think that's what you help with.
I hope that's what I'm helping with, because I mean, it's exhausting what I do to open up my life like this, knowing that there's eyes there and this energy is constantly pumping out and coming back in. Jian, if you live in that positive world and you're happy and you dance, what tends to happen afterwards? The people around you might start to feel that. You might start to feel stronger in your life. You might start to be more motivated to do a little bit more in your life. So if you choose to take that route, I would put my money down that fast forward a few years, you're going to make some pretty big shifts and changes in your world. If you go that way, it's almost like motivation. People ask, how am I motivated? It's because I see results. How do you get the results? Well, you have to start being motivated. And then when you see the results, you start losing weight or you start getting that better job. It makes you motivated to want to do more, right? Okay, let's go the other way. If I want to wake up and say, oh, I have 4 kids and I'm so tired and I got to go to work. What's going to happen? That's going to start bleeding into my life. It'll go around my coworkers. Then when that promotion comes up, they're going to be like, oh, that's Shally. She's always in a bad mood. She's always complaining. Or then maybe my husband says, oh, she's always sad and depressed. Right. Maybe the marriage starts to go down. Do you see, like
100%? That's my mantra. That it's a choice. When people ask me how I have gotten through tough times, I sort of say, it doesn't matter who you are, how much money you have, what your circumstances are. Obviously, not to take anything away from people who are in desperate circumstances, but ultimately when you wake up, it's a choice. There's 10 things I can list off the top of my head about anybody I meet that they can feel shitty about, or there's 10 things that they can feel positive about. And it's your choice to choose which ones you want to embrace, right?
Yes.
It's that old adage that I went to, somewhere, a developing country and somebody who didn't have a lot of means was the happiest person I'd ever met, and the billionaire who sits at home miserable. These are choices to a certain extent.
I totally agree, and it is a choice to be happy. And just because you're happy and you're positive doesn't mean that you're not struggling, doesn't mean that you're not dealing with life, and doesn't mean that sometimes it just becomes too hard. but I still think that strength will turn you around in those hard times.
Is there a cranky version of you? What is the cranky version of Shally?
Yeah, maybe there is. I wish my husband was around here right now. He would tell you.
Is there a hangry version?
Oh, yeah, I get hangry.
You do? Okay, well, that's the segue. If you could tell me about this, I quite enjoy this this cooking show. You know what I watch? You know what I get from Beris or Bepaz? You know, I learn Persian from you.
Oh,
that's
really?
how much better your Persian is than mine.
You should learn Persian from. That was such a struggle for me to do that.
Has your Persian gotten a lot better?
Yeah,
totally. Because I seem to I thought for some reason I was in this like weird delusional mindset a couple of years ago that we were around the same, you know, that our Persian was not really fluent but almost, and here you are doing like a cooking show with like all Farsi. You know?
Albeit I leaned on Alexa a lot to ask him what the names of ingredients were because I really didn't know, but it was uncomfortable for me, it was scary for me, and I didn't want to do it many times, but I'm glad I didn't play into that fear because it turned out to be such a cool experience. When Sharam Shapare was in my kitchen, oh my word, what was that? Like I couldn't believe it. And
well, he looked really excited to be with you, quite frankly.
Well, I mean, he's probably seen me patioing, you know, all over the place for 10 years now at Fox. So, and he's such a good guy. I mean, talk about meeting people that you right off the bat. He's not playing games. He wasn't acting. He was so happy to be here. And it made me feel so special. But I leaned into that fear. Talk about making choices. I leaned into it. I'm like, look, I don't speak Farsi as well as all y'all in Iran. You know how to cook Persian food way better than me. But we're going to try to create something through food, which I love, through music, which I love. And we're going to try to find some happy moments and see if we can shift your energy for 30 minutes and make you laugh. And it's been amazing watching the reaction to these people. They'll stop me in the street. I love it when the older gentlemen stop me. They come and say, Khanom Zomorodi. And I'm like, yes. They're like, Bebin, that pasta you made was so good. I've been cooking pasta since. I'm like, oh, mission accomplished.
It is always such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for doing this. Congratulations on the book. Let me ask you a final question. Do you, and I know you're not going to give us a breaking news here on this, but if you were to be Roqe about it, do you feel like, I sometimes think of you and I think, is she going to stay being an anchor at Fox San Diego? I mean, because I know you probably love it, and you've got a family there as well, and you've been doing it for a long time, and you're a staple of the San Diego, the Southern California media community. But you're doing these things, and you've got so many possibilities that I wouldn't be surprised if you chose to move on to doing more of some of the other things that you do in your life. Tell me about that.
You mean like officiating weddings, which I'm now officiating.
That's right.
Outing people on the weekends.
That's right. That's right. When we were planning this interview, Shally was saying, well, that weekend I have 3 weddings and then I have 2 weddings the following. I'm like, how many weddings does a girl need to go to? She's like, no, I'm officiating them.
You know, it's my new adventure, and I'm going to be Roqe with you. I don't know. And I don't think any of us know. There's one thing that I have learned in life and my kids have taught me. You can't plan anything in life anymore, Jian. We know that. Anybody goes back 10 years and you see the things that have unfolded in all of our lives. Look at every single one of our lives. Would you have guessed the things that happened?
Yeah.
Probably not.
No.
So I can just tell you my family is important to me. Being a good person is important to me. Making changes in my community is important to me. Dancing is important to me. My health is important to me. Those things are going to remain constant. Will I be doing weddings in 5 years? I don't know. Will I be a news anchor? I don't know. Will I write a book? I don't know. I don't know, because I don't even know if I'm going to, I say this tongue in cheek, but I don't know if I'm going to be here in an hour. None of us do. So why not just take the time that I have right now and just live it, grind into it, have a good time with it, do the weddings, do all of that stuff, and then the news anchoring and the book writing and the mental health and dancing. And then we'll just see where life takes me.
Well, I certainly hope you're here in an hour, because they're waiting for you in Seattle this weekend, first of all.
I'll get to Seattle first. I'll get to Seattle.
Don't die before Seattle.
I'll try not to. I'll try not to.
And what's this thing 9 months from now? That was quite a tease. What's this big thing you're going to drop? It's a new book, another book. Can you say anything about it? Okay. I'm guessing it's like maybe it's a bio or like an autobiography. Or?
No, it's not. I'll tell you this much: it's not a book. It's
it's not a book. Okay.
It's a concept. It's a thing, and it's going to play right into everything. This is where you talk about the journey in life, and I tell you, if you asked me 25 years ago, did you know you were going to be a news anchor doing this at Fox? I would have been like, well, the world is telling me I'm not going to, so no. Everything that I've worked on, everything that I've touched, everything that I've built is now starting to come, and I had this aha moment, and this aha moment I am working on very hard right now, and hopefully I'll be able to share it with you very soon.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Shally Zumaredi, thank you so much for this. Thank you, by the way. I love the way you've been saying my name through this interview. It's like you're from Tennessee, Jian. You know, it's like your Persian has become immaculate, but you apparently can't say Jian. Yeah, so anyway, Jian, I wrote this book about, like, she's the pillar of our community. She can say my name.
It's the news anchor, the American news anchor in me.
You can take the girl out of San Diego to Seattle, but you can't take the... it's such a pleasure. You're the greatest. Thank you for this.
Good to see you. Hopefully we'll see you in Canada soon.
I hope. We've been saying, get your, come on up here.
I will. Soon. Very soon, I promise.
Khodafis.
Khodafis.
Shally Zomorodi, an American journalist and television anchor of Iranian descent. Her new book is entitled Myla Caterpillars Become Butterflies. Shally will be appearing at the Seattle Iranian Festival this coming Saturday, June 25th. Shally joined us from San Diego, California today. Right, microphone's back on here in the studio. Captain Reza, the fabulous Keon, and Groovy Shaya.
Oh, the lovely, energetic Shally Zomorodi, as always.
One of a kind.
It's just so much fun, man.
She really does have an amazing. She has amazing energy.
She does. Yeah. She does. She's infectious.
I feel bad for her in the sense that it's so part of who she is that she couldn't do an interview.
To be,
she can't just do a sleepy interview.
No. Listen, to answer your question, she doesn't have she doesn't do assistant.
That's right.
She doesn't do assistant. I love that. It's like, I'm not LA. I'm not California. I'm not celebrity. Don't talk to me that way. I don't do assistant. That was awesome.
Yeah, man, you said it. She's infectious. My mood was like, mellow, whatever. But as soon as I hear her talk, it just uplifted.
Picks you up?
Uplifted, yeah.
What did you think about her book, though?
I didn't read it. I would love to.
No, but the idea of it.
I think it's beautiful. And, here's a woman that went through the worst of bullying at a time when, there weren't a lot of immigrants around her. Now, like in a lot of major cities, there's a lot of Iranians, but during that time, there weren't many. So just imagine what she had to go through. And she turned something ugly into a beautiful, her output is positive.
I like that she spoke up for caterpillars as well as butterflies. But I think this is a lovely thing that Shally's done, is sort of integrating her story and her daughter's, her kids' story as well.
Don't you find it like somewhat odd, even that like this day and age, especially the wave of immigrants that are in California right now, and it still happens. Like the kids still like, what is that? Why your eyebrows look like that? And
I'm kind of shocked by that. Bizarre. But I also think that we carry I was thinking about that because I was thinking, I've got this chip on my shoulder about you guys don't know what it was like when we were young. I'm turning into that guy,
you are.
I mean, we could all do versions of that, right?
Yeah.
And yet, of course kids are still facing this.
Yeah.
Right? Of course kids are facing, and she's right with, well, she didn't say just it was, she didn't attribute it to only social media, but we didn't have social media when we were kids. The ability to bully somebody now on social media, I mean, you can, you know, you don't have to be in their face, you can do it when they go home from school, and I mean, it's just horrible, right?
But she gets it, man. Like, life is hard, let's face it. You can wake up and like complain about all the things that are wrong with your life,
she
or just
said
make
life
it
is
positive.
pain or something.
It is, it like, but you make it what it is. Like, I have so much respect for someone like that just turns. It's an ugly world, so the more positive you put out there, the more positive comes.
Shaya, do you want to comment at all?
But I think, bullying is one of those things that actually when I moved to Canada, I kind of
heard about it.
Yes, because in Iran, like,
we don't have that.
Like
they do have it. They just don't.
We do have it. We don't recognize it.
No,
that's what
in
it is.
Iran, I mean, if you are a bully, actually, like, teachers are also bullying you.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, teachers make fun of you, and so there is no way to escape bullying.
Actually, Shaya is right. In Iran, if you're not a bully, you're a loser. You know, at school, like, if you get bullied, they're like, boss, it's your fault. Like, stand up to them, you know? Even the teachers, right? The mannerism of the teachers are like that, too.
Sometimes
like
I wonder if we're caricaturing.
I don't know.
Is it really that bad?
I share very similar experience as Shaya when it comes to bullying, because I didn't know what the hell bullying was. Like, I grew up, and then
it certainly wasn't. I was thinking that as I was reading Shali's book the last few days, I was thinking this. I kind of wish, I was trying to think, did these things really not exist when we were kids, or am I imagining that they didn't? But I really don't think there was the culture of calling out bullying and all that in the same way at all. And it really was a little bit of big boys don't cry, you know, you should be, you should be tougher. It was, you kind of almost blame the kid, you know, if somebody was picking on us.
Which is a fine line too, Jian John, because at some point, like, if you try to always be soft on the kid and trying to soften the kid and like not let him experience pain and go through it and learn from it and grow, just like a muscle grows when you work out. You put it through pain, but then you let it heal and learn from it. We're not going to have a society where we can have an honest conversation. You know what I mean? So there is that
but
part
also
of it too.
true. And when I asked her about where's the line, not everything is bullying. I do worry about you know, whether it's in my nephew or other people that I sort of go, at what point do we have to make sure that they understand that criticism has its place, critical thinking has its place. People disagreeing with you is okay. It isn't necessarily bullying. That isn't necessarily something you should be offended by. It's something you should welcome. You know, there's differences of opinion. But I thought that Shali answered that really well too, in terms of talking it through with her kids, and I mean, she's a great ambassador for this stuff.
They have, I feel like kids, well, she said it, kids these days, maybe they don't face bullying at school as much as we did back in our time, but they have a whole set of new wave of issues with social media and the internet age. My God, like, I can't imagine.
Speaking of kids, and before we get to, we got Peyman Salimi coming up in just a few moments. Do you want to go get him, Shaya?
Go get him.
Shaya's going to run into the other room and get him. In the meantime, so we have a member of our team, I mentioned this earlier in the show, who is not only is today his, spoiler alert, it's a male. Not only is it his birthday, but yesterday was his first time experiencing Father's Day as a father. Ladies and gentlemen, happy birthday, Roqe! Savvy Roqe! Savvy Roqe doing a little birthday dance. Happy birthday, Savvy.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And how are you feeling, Savvy Roqe?
Great.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's the first Father's Day and coming after
What's your daughter's name?
Melody.
Yeah,
He's told you this 100 times.
I know.
Why would you not know the name of his daughter?
I was saying it for the audience.
Okay.
Jian,
she doesn't know why. Okay.
And yeah, this is my last year of being 30 something years. old.
Oh.
So you're turning 40.
Yeah.
Well, no, he's not yet.
No, I'm 39.
He's
now.
39.
39 now? Okay.
Or 39. As
30.
And how was yesterday as your first Father's Day?
Great. I was working all day, and when I got home, I had this picture ready for me with my daughter and myself. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's awesome, man.
It's beautiful.
Happy
And
Father's Day.
I'm assuming Melody doesn't really know what's going on in terms of Father's Day. She's a few months old, right?
No, actually, she didn't want to give me the picture. she held it down. I was like, Daddy, please let it go. But yeah, it was so cute.
Well, Savvy, you are not just savvy. You are a beloved member of our team.
Thank you.
You never let anybody down, and you're just a guy that everybody loves to have around. And we love you, and we wish you a happy birthday. Please get back to work now.
Thank you, guys. Thank
So
you.
my father would say, "Please work harder, Daniel."
Work harder.
Yeah.
Always.
That is great. Now go get to work. You're
Happy
a terrible
birthday.
worker. We did your work. Happy birthday, Roham. And Shaya, please buy Roham something.
Gift on our behalf.
Please give him one of your keyboards. Savi Roham is left, and another year older.
That's right.
Team's getting, the average age is going up. See what's happening?
We got to rehire newer ones.
That's right. We need new models. Have fun. Happy birthday, Savi Roham. Happy Father's Day to all of you fathers out there. And let's get to the next guest. All right. Thank you, the fabulous Kian, Groovy Shaya, Captain Reza. Our next guest is in the Roqe Studio, a talented Iranian-Italian singer-songwriter, guitarist, music producer. Take a listen to this.
در خواب رفته بودم که ناگه بشنیدم صدایت ز دور دست آسوده با برباد رد زدی صبح فردایم توی درد و درمانم به چشمم بنگر که صد راز پنهانم به صد آهنگم توی مدار.
From his 2019 album One Now, that is Peyman Salimi and the song Raj. Peyman was born and raised in Tehran. He started playing the piano from an early age. Later on, he took interest in guitar and ended up at the Faculty of Fine Art at the University of Tehran, where he studied classical guitar performance. So then, to follow his lifelong passion, guitar, he moved to Florence, Italy in 2004 and studied guitar with Alfonso Berghesi at the Conservatorio Luigi Cherubini. And see, I'm trying to say this as Italian as I can. It's probably doing a terrible job. And Fiesole Music School. He obtained his master's degree in music technology at the same conservatory, graduating with honors. Peyman is known to many as the lead singer of the Florence-based pop rock band, which he formed in 2010, called the Allophones. But of late, he's also been producing records and releasing his own solo works. His second self-produced album, One Now, came out in April 2019, and he's recently released some new singles and is working on a new bilingual album that is scheduled for release this fall. We'll talk about that. In the meantime, he's performing as part of the bill on Ali Azimi's US and Canada tour. And right now, Peyman Salimi joins me in the Roqe Studio today. Hello, sir.
Hi, Jian. Thanks
Nice
for
to
having
have
me.
you here.
Yeah, nice to be here.
It's a great pleasure. You're in the middle of this tour with Ali Azimi. It's right across North America. It looks like, watching you on stage, it looks like you're having a lot of fun. Are you having a lot of fun?
Yeah, it's been great. The first 3 gigs, they've been great. Yeah.
And you're opening the show solo, and then you come out and play as part of Ali's band.
Yeah, I would say it's a pretty unusual situation. It's not very
It's a full night for you.
Yeah.
There's no rest for you.
Yeah, as the support act, I opened the show, and then I changed my role. Basically, I'm gonna be the guitarist.
You're the guitarist,
Yeah.
and yeah, kind of the band leader. It feels like, I don't know. I mean, I know Ali Azimi's probably the band leader, but you produced a record, so you're kind of, looks like you're giving some direction up there as well.
I don't know if I can. I mean, it's up to the artist to say if I'm leading the band. I wouldn't say that, but as you said, I think the fact that I produced his last album makes it easier for me just to like communicate with every band member, like what's the vibe of the song, what should we do in terms of like to be more like as much as faithful as possible to the original record. I think maybe that's why you picked up on that vibe.
Well, first of all, I would say I was going to ask you what you prefer, playing solo or playing with the band, but here's my guess. My guess is that you love playing solo, but there's a lot of pressure. You're up there, you're doing your songs, and once that part of the night is done, and you're up with Ali, it's playtime. Like it's a lot more fun for you. Not that you don't love playing your own songs, but there's less pressure, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's the case. Exactly.
So do you have a preference?
Obviously, I mean, I love to play my own songs, but it's a different thing. I can't tell because I've never done like session. I've never been a session man for any other artist. This is like a very special situation for me. So it's kind of fun, because I've never done that. I've never played the guitar on the stage for anybody else rather than my own stuff.
Do you like playing your own songs better because there's much better songs than Ali's?
Definitely. Hi, Ali, don't kill me. I mean, I think it's so different. I wouldn't even compare. We have two different styles. Like we can share a part of our audience, definitely, but I would say like it's a different vibe. Like completely different.
It is and it isn't. I would say in the broader pantheon of Persian music out there, it's not that different. You guys are in a similar genre. Within the genre, you're very different from each other. But we'll get into why there isn't more sort of pop rock acts like you guys out there in the Persian diaspora. Yeah. But you produced Ali's latest record, Ali Azimi's latest record. He's in London. Yeah. You're based in Belgium. You studied and lived in Italy. Yeah. You grew up and studied in Iran, Tehran. We are in Toronto.
There's a lot of places.
Yeah. I mean, where do you self-identify as home now?
I don't know. It's so hard for me to say where's home. I think the first 10 years of after I moved out of Iran, I was like pretty homesick. Also because I hadn't done the military service. Like I couldn't go back for 10 years. Right. And I started to idealizing everything about Iran, about Tehran. And the first time that I went back, it was funny. Like I was kissing all the asphalt. I was like,
really?
I was
you knelt down and kissed the ground.
Yeah. I was in Yusufabad. That's where I kind of grew up. I was like, it felt awesome. It was like therapy. And then I went a couple of times more, and then I think that feeling faded away somehow. That tendency to idealize, that was home for me. But I think now it could be everywhere. I feel pretty cozy and comfortable in Brussels right now, even after it's been only 1 year and a half. But
what took you? I'm curious. Brussels seems like an interesting place.
Yeah.
Why to use as the epicenter of the Peyman Salimi production world? Why there?
I ended up there by pure chance. I mean, COVID happened, and I was so sick of like being in Florence. I said I should do something.
The ugly city of Florence.
Yeah, which is like pretty ugly, I would say.
Simply the most romantic place in the world.
This is all relative. Like when you're surrounded by that kind of
boy, am I tired of this. This what is this shithole Florence, Italy? The place where literally everybody in the world goes to
I love
see
Florence.
the beauty. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Like that's home for me, and it's gonna be in my heart.
But you were sick of it.
Yeah, because I think artistically and professionally, that was the worst place that I could end up. Okay. But I don't know, one thing led to another, and I ended up like living there for almost 18 years. I don't know what happened. Like I did my bachelor, and then I wanted to go away, and then I ended up doing my master. And I wanted to go away, and I ended up like putting up a band together, and then we won like a rock contest that was pretty huge back then in Italy. And I saw something like was moving, and I said, no, this is not the right time to go away. So I just stayed, and I don't know, like 18 years. Yeah, man.
So the question was about Brussels, but you've done a good job of mangling the answer. I want to actually ask you all about Italy. It's very interesting to me that you went to Italy, and I want to ask about your time there. But just to tie up this one question, how did you end up in Belgium now?
So I had a few friends, like musician friends in Brussels. So I had been as a tourist, I've been to Brussels like so many times, but I never picked the vibe. I was like, what is this city? Is it? It's not Paris. It's not Berlin. It's not London. What is it? So
it's cultural though.
Yeah, but
and businessy.
Yeah, at the same time. But when I moved there, like initially I moved there for 3 months, and I was waiting for the borders to open up, like the U.S. borders, because Europeans couldn't travel. Like with the European passport, you couldn't travel from Europe to the U.S. So I said, yeah, let me go to Brussels, and I was already working online.
You couldn't travel with a European passport to the U.S.?
No, because of the COVID. Yeah.
Because of COVID.
Yeah, you could not.
Right.
Everything was shut down, and so I moved there, and initially for like a couple of months, and after a month I really liked the place, and gradually I think I developed this kind of passion for the city, because I think it's pretty special. It's a unique place. It doesn't belong to anyone. Even before the immigration boom and everything, it was a place that it didn't belong to anyone. Like it was like a clash between the French-speaking culture and the Flemish culture, basically. It's just like a halfway between the two.
Would it have not made sense to move to London because you work with Ali? And
that's what everybody says. I don't know. I like London, but I don't know. I can't. But
your love interest was in Brussels.
Yeah.
I knew it was. Yeah. I knew there was something going on there.
No. Don't get me wrong. No, it doesn't have anything to do with romance. Okay. I mean, not initially. Afterwards.
Right.
Afterwards.
The reason you stayed.
Life happens.
Right. Sure. Of course. You're a young man. You're growing.
Yeah.
Look, let's get to more of your story. But you brought your guitar here. I'm excited about this. And you're going to play a couple songs for us. In 2020, you released a really great version of the song Shab, which I think is a Faramaz Aslani song, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So, can you play that for us in the studio here?
We'd
love to hear that. Let's do it.
Okay, sure.
This is Peyman Salimi in our Roqe Studio.
I think I unplugged my headphones.
Oh, okay. We'll let you do that.
Yeah.
Thank God you're a producer. You can figure these things out. Live in the Roqe Studio, playing the song Shab, Peyman Salimi.
Yeah, 1, 2, check.
گر تو را بخت یارا نه چندان به کام است ور تو را گوشه تیرگی ها مقام است اشک و آهت نبخشد پناهی که دنیای ما را عشق می باید این روزگاران خدا را هر چه خواهی تو از لطف او آرزو کن چاره خویش را در دلت جستجو کن دامن دیو افسردگی ها رها کن که باری بر نگیرد ز دوش تو اندوه آری چون کبوتر بزن پر که گویی از نشستن تو یارا مرادی نجویی پر بکش سوی دل روشنی ها که شاید از پس تیرگی آفتابی درآید
Nicely done. Live in the Roqe Studio, Peyman Salimi playing the song Shab that he recorded and released in 2020. I love that song. It's a really, really beautiful rendition.
Gorgeous. The lyrics especially.
Yeah. Thank you for doing that. What captured you about that song? Why did you decide to record that?
I think I grew up with Aslani's music, the first album. I have so many memories, like childhood memories with that album, and I think that's the best musical product before the revolution, like the best album.
Right before the revolution, too, like,
especially that singer-songwriter kind of vibe. It's just, I don't know, I was so amazed by his style when I was a kid. But I think it takes a lot of courage to cover his songs, especially that album, because it's so nicely done and crafted.
It's true, actually. You wonder how you can make Faramaz Aslani any better. You know? I have this rule because David Bowie is my idol. I've had this lifelong rule: don't cover Bowie. No one should cover Bowie because no one can do what Bowie did, right?
Yeah.
Once in a while, if it's like somebody completely different, like a female with a very different, Bjork or something,
reinterpretation,
right? Like but otherwise, don't try and cover Bowie. It's a mistake. And I think Faramaz, you're right. I mean, he's that baritone, but your version is actually really beautiful.
That's funny. I mean, because I think every song is like so well crafted in that album, but I think this one, like in terms of arrangement, it's a little like there are a lot of guitar solos going on like all over the place, and I think that was the main reason I picked it, because I thought that maybe I had something to add to it. I can't say that because I don't know, it would sound so arrogant, but I think that I had a vision for that song. They said, okay.
I mean, the recorded version is great. Well, people should check this out. Just go to Peyman Salimi on Spotify or whatever your music streaming service is and check out his version of Shab. The recording is really, really great. You talk about that album, that Faramaz album, being an inspiration to you as a kid in Iran. Tell me about growing up in Iran. Are you from a musical family?
I'm not actually, but I think I'm grateful because my parents, they always supported. I mean, they did until I decided to pursue like music.
A career.
And then they did not.
Right. It's for
a while.
You don't know how many times we hear that, Like just a couple of weeks ago, we had an amazing young violinist on who's literally playing with the Boston Philharmonic. And she has to fight with her parents, who are just like, what, do you really need to make this a career? Come on. I mean, engineering, medical school.
That was the case for me too.
But were you surrounded by music in Tehran? I mean, I'm curious what your first window into music was.
I think I was lucky. Like I was given this tiny keyboard when I was 5, and I started like playing some jingles and stuff like by ear. And I have an uncle. He was really like a great motivator. It was like really. Actually, I started with melodica. Melodica is just like this.
I love the melodica.
Yeah, melodica is just like and I was so tiny that I couldn't
you blow into it and play at the same time, right?
I didn't have the strength to like. I don't. So he was blowing.
Oh wow! Did he have the little string, the little the tube?
Yeah, I remember those sessions when he was blowing. My uncle was blowing into the thing.
That's amazing.
That was funny. It was like,
so the story is that you start by playing the piano, and then your heart gets captured by the guitar.
I think it happened at the right time, the right place, and then I was lucky. Like for a year, I went on like by myself, like teaching myself basically, like the notes. I didn't know. I didn't know anything.
Even by the late '90s and early 2000s, it's still not super commonplace. Electric guitars and stuff in Iran. I mean, obviously it's better than it was in the '80s, but even by that time, you're not sort of surrounded by jam spaces that you can go play the guitar in, right?
You're right. I think it was the early years that there was some sort of like relative opening by the regime on music, on the musical scene. There were so many pop singers popping out, like that were basically the copy of the Los Angeles based singers. Like everybody was like, oh, this is the Tehran version of Moeen, or this is the Tehran version of Dariush,
Andy,
you know what I mean.
Well, I want to get to that. I want to get to the Persian music sound, but so this decision to go to Italy, I mean, it's an interesting place to go to pursue music if you want to play the kind of rock and pop you do these days. So I assume you first went from Iran to Florence with the intention of learning classical guitar.
Yeah. I mean, initially I was pretty obsessed with the sound of the classical guitar. The electric guitar like came way afterwards, like way later. And
what was it like when you first go to Florence in the I guess 2004, 2005 around then? What was it like being a Persian kid in Italy?
I think I was lucky because I was so in love with the language, with Italian, because I had studied like 1 year before moving to Italy, and apparently I was so good that because I lost my connection flight from Milan to Florence, and then I had to go and ask the responsible to to change the ticket, and she was like, she took a look at my passport and she was like, is this the first time in Italy? Like, your Italian is great. And I was like, I was so happy and pumped up by that comment that really, it had a nice effect on me. And I think the first 2 years, I learned the language so fast, and it made life easier, I gotta say, to be honest.
But you said earlier that those first years were difficult for you because you really wanted to go back to Iran and you couldn't because of the obligatory military service, the Sarbazi. What made it difficult being in Italy?
I think the first thing was like, I'm a city boy. Like I grew up in Tehran, and like moving to Florence, this tiny town, basically everything is based on the Renaissance history, and there's not much else to do. Like outside, when you're in the center of Florence, like in the downtown, everything is beautiful. Like you're surrounded by art. Obviously, you've been there many times, I suppose. And
not many times, but a couple of times. Yeah.
But outside that reality, there's not much to do. Like as for a 20-year-old kid, there's not much.
Right.
Much, I don't know, in terms of entertainment or inspiration, or
it's not a metropolis.
It's not
right
at all.
Yeah,
but at the same time, I think it had its upsides because I started to feel cozy, and like after 2-3 years, the first 2 years, I was definitely depressed. I would say I was really I took it hard, and the fact that I couldn't go back and visit my parents, it was even harder. I was constantly thinking about, oh, why did I do this? I didn't regret my decision, but it was hard. It was hard. Yeah.
When did you start to make a I mean, you're studying classical guitar.
Yeah.
When did the shift come into playing Western sounding pop and rock music?
I think it was way before, like as soon as I started to play the guitar, I was singing in English, basically. Yeah, I was trying to
I couldn't find any material from you singing in Italian.
In Italian,
there's Persian and there's English, but so even all that time in Italy, you were singing in English.
That's weird, huh?
Well, it is a bit weird, yeah. Why is that? Why
I suppose I was never attracted to that. I think I have a certain resistance to Italian pop rock. I love a couple of singer-songwriters from the 70s, like DeAndre and Battisti, but the new Italian rock and pop rock, I could never relate to that kind of music because it sounded so fake to me. I mean, so many people are gonna hate me. I mean, this is like overgeneralizing.
Yeah,
but
it's okay. Yeah.
But it's I couldn't relate to that kind of. And it's funny because I was living in Italy, and my Italian was so good. I mean, like there was no language barrier just to say, oh, you cannot connect to this kind of music because you don't understand the lyrics.
What were your influences in English rock? And I mean, to have this conversation with Ali Azimi, for example, where I've said to him, Ali, how is it that you play the kind of music that I grew up, being interested in and playing, but you're doing it with Persian lyrics? And he said, well, because basically I grew up really being into English rock, and he was completely, he says, not that interested in Persian music at all growing up. Was that the case for you? I mean, at this point when you're in Italy, are you starting to just listen to, I don't know, John Cale or Springsteen or something that isn't either Persian or Italian?
I think it started even before I moved to Italy. Like I was basically in the same headspace, I would say, like because I started like listening to The Doors a lot, and like all like
notable classical guitar band, The Doors,
and also like every other Iranian teenager, I would say, Dire Straits.
Pink
Floyd, and Dire Straits, and And then, I think the first year that I moved to Italy, I was like super obsessed with J.J. Cale.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the first year I was listening to his songs, like, I don't know, like 4 hours a day. And I think you can definitely hear the influence of my first album.
Well, yes. And I certainly hear, I mean, with the Allophones, which is this band that you form in Florence, right? Yeah. Who knew a Persian who starts an English rock band out of Florence, Italy? It's I don't know how you feel about this. To me, it sounds kind of like The Killers, maybe electronic guitar rock, great pop melodies, very Western. And you become the lead singer of the Allophones. You're singing in English, right?
Yeah.
It's something that's really interesting to me that obviously I wanted to get to in this interview because you've mentioned this to me in the past. Is that you, as a songwriter, when you're writing lyrics, you think and write in English, or that you find it easier to write in English than in Persian. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say I find it definitely easier. I don't know why, but I feel like super free to address different issues and different topics in English rather than Persian.
What does that mean?
I don't know, like... my Persian songs back then, at least, I would end up always like writing lyrics about love. It was very love centered, قلب خستم, بال شکستم, that kind of stuff. And I couldn't find.
You can't shake that.
No,
you can't write a Persian song about cruising in your car, or I don't know.
I couldn't do it. I mean, I know there are people who are doing it, and it's great.
Why do you think you can't do it? I mean, the reason why this is so interesting to me, obviously, is that I get it if someone like me would find it easier to write in English because I didn't grow up in Iran, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, English isn't even your second language, right? It's your third.
Yeah.
So so I would think the kid who grew up in Tehran, went to school in Tehran originally, all of that would find it just easier to think and write in Persian.
I did. I mean, I wrote a lot of Persian songs, but I mean, first of all, when I moved to Italy, I think I was so disconnected with the reality, and I was surrounded. I wasn't like hanging out all the time with Iranian. I had like many Iranian friends, but I think my reality, my life, like really changed. So the first reason for me in my head, I was thinking I should like make a product that I could communicate with these people.
Right,
like, you know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
So I said, okay, if I keep like writing in Persian, so who I like for whom I can play these songs, like who's gonna listen to it?
Of course.
I think that played a big role.
Do you think
Like-
that would have been different today because of all the platforms and social media? Do you know that even if you were sitting in Florence, you'd be able to write a Persian song and immediately get, put it on Spotify? I mean, that 15-year gap is things have changed a lot, right?
It could have, but I mean, even back then, there were like platforms. I remember like through MySpace, I found out so many people. Like I remember I had this connection with Arash Sopani from Kiosk back then, and we were like exchanging so many messages, and they were like getting big, and everybody was listening to them, and then it was funny. So there was the possibility to do it. It's not like the technology didn't exist. But I mean, for me, for some reason, I just decided to take the other direction, and I found it like super interesting. For example, in my first album, I have a song which talks about the founder of IKEA, and I cannot do that in Persian.
Do you think there's more of a pressure because of the the legacy of Persian poetry and all that you feel pressure to write in Persian? You have to write something very sophisticated and poetic, whereas in English you can just muck about it more?
Definitely, because I think in Farsi, when you're writing like lyrics in Farsi, I'm super self-conscious about picking the words. Oh, this word like sounds rough.
Yes.
And this doesn't sound musical, but in
there's
English,
a lot of judgment.
Yeah.
It's like, who wrote the lyric for this? And you're like,
exactly,
not me. I don't know. Whereas in English, there isn't an expectation that you have to be Leonard Cohen. It's just kind of like, okay, well, everybody writes their lyrics, and the Beatles, and I won't get into it because I know that you're not as big a fan as I believe you should be. but the Beatles, some of the Beatles lyrics are quite benign. They're not there. Yesterday, I mean, it's not the most sophisticated stuff, but it moves hearts and it works, and so that's really so. Do you feel that freedom in English, speaking in English as well compared to Persian, or is it consigned to writing lyrics and poetry?
It could be also in speaking when I'm like talking about certain themes. It could be like certain topics. I can find like more, like I feel more comfortable maybe
in English.
I mean, like speaking about those topics.
Like what? What are we talking about? What's in your mind?
I don't know. Like the technical language, or the psychology. I think for me it's like much easier to talk about
in English.
Yeah. Like, even if my like speaking skills are not that, because I've never lived in
your own psychology is like talking to a therapist. It would be easier.
I think so.
In English.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So interesting to me.
I think so. Yeah, because it's been almost 20 years I'm out of Iran, and it could be Italian for me, but with Italian it's a different story. Like it's Italian is my day-to-day language. It's my conversational but English has become connected to the most sophisticated part of my brain.
Can you speak? What is it? Flemish in Belgium? What is it?
No, I can't. No, I barely.
What about French?
I'm resisting because I hate French.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah,
what's wrong with French?
I don't know. I enjoy when some
I hate French. What a thing to say. What do you hate about French?
I don't like the sound of French.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, when female people speak it,
sure.
I mean, that's a different story. As a male, I don't know. I just like when a guy
when Charles Aznavour, you don't like though. No. You don't think it's the language of love, bro. Come on.
Yeah, I can't. Like I definitely prefer Italian or Spanish.
Do you know what allophones? Where did you get the title of your band Allophones from?
I think there was the double meaning that's behind it, like the way that you pronounce different phonemes, or in Canada.
You know what it means in Canada?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
I looked it up. Like aliens, basically neither French or English speaking people.
If your first language is neither French or English, you're called an allophone. Yeah. I didn't know if that's where you got it from.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
I looked it
so
up.
you had a little Canadian connection back then.
No, I think it was just by pure chance. Like,
okay, so you didn't.
Looking it online.
Let me ask you about.
I looked it up. Like I was looking for a name for the band.
It's a good name.
Yeah.
Why do you think there aren't? I want to get to your new solo record and talk about that, but just staying with Persian music for a second. Why do you think there aren't more artists like you and Ali Azimi in the Persian diaspora, or even Kiosk you mentioned? I mean, with the notable exception of some popular hip-hop artists, much of the music that is still very popular in the Persian diaspora and, you know, the Radio Javan kind of thing is to me, very similar sounding Persian pop. In some cases, still with the old 6/8, you know, shisha hashed rhythm and stuff. Why do you think that's the case as a songwriter and a producer?
To be honest, I don't think I have the right vision, like enough knowledge to comment on this, to be honest. But
What if you think in English? Will that help?
I am. Believe me, I'm trying.
Or in Italian. I don't know.
I'm trying to do it in Italian. It's funny because I mean, I listen to like a lot of product that comes from Iran, like even in rock, but there's not much alternative rock coming from. It's like more like a very guitar solo based kind of music, and I don't know, it sounds so outdated and expired to me, like to my ear. But it's good material. I'm not saying, like, I'm not judging,
but even that's kind of the minority, right? Persian rock is not a huge genre.
It can be the sound of the language. It's funny, I was talking the other day with a friend of mine. We were talking about like the sound of English, how it matches perfectly with the sound of rock because of the energy that you put like behind the syllabus, and it makes it easier to express yourself. But in Persian, especially Iranian Persian, like with the Tehrani accent, and I was talking to him, and he made me notice something. It's like, what about Afghan accent? And I thought about it, and I was experimenting. Like I was trying to sing a rock song, like a Persian rock song, one of my songs actually, with an Afghan accent, and actually I think, in my opinion, like it matched perfectly. Like it was rougher. It was like it had more.
I'm trying to imagine. Can you give an example of it?
I don't know, like the sound of that language, like in like Farsi Dari, the way that those people speak it sounds like rougher, and like I think that kind of
helps.
Yeah, that kind of helps. Maybe I can sing something for you, but I don't know. I don't remember the lyrics.
Yeah, right try it. You need to grab your guitar. I'm curious if you want to do it.
There's a song by this Afghan famous singer-songwriter Farhad Darya. Actually, let me do the one that I covered. Actually, it says. So Ahmad Vali wrote the song, I think in the 70s, and it's like, Shab laban dagh khish didam bar laban to, Shab laban dagh khish didam bar laban to, Atashi be janam zad, Atash laban to. Like there's more energy behind everything, and if I do it with the like Tehrani,
do it with the Tehrani.
Shab laban dagh khish didam bar laban. You see, you can you feel the energy, like the attack of the sound?
I'm inclined to say yes to agree with you, to make you feel well. They both sounded good to me.
Yeah, but it's just maybe in my head. I don't know.
No, I get the staccato nature of
it's the attack of the sound.
Yes, I do understand.
Yeah, there's more attack in that.
All this language talk is not actually irrelevant to your experience and what you're where you're going with your career, because this latest record that you've been working on that comes out, I guess, in the fall, is hopefully. You've described it as a bilingual record. I assume that means it's English and Persian?
Yeah.
Within the songs, or there's one song?
Some of them they're like bilingual, like the verses are in English and the choruses.
So that's
Persian.
Interesting. Yeah. Tell me about that decision.
I mean, I don't think it's a decision. It just like came out. Like I think the verses came out in English. Like it was totally random, and I was just switching between English and Farsi.
Is it a confusing business to put out a record that's
like
would it not be easier to pick a lane? No, I don't know, maybe it's genius, you know.
But I don't think it's genius, but that's who I am right now. Like I think the last solo show that I had in London like 2 weeks ago, that was the first time I really felt that I'm like putting on the table a product that matches exactly my identity, you know.
Yeah.
Because if I just sung in Farsi, that's not the reality that I live on a daily basis. Like that's not my life. I'm not surrounded by Persian culture every day. Yeah, I was born there, and I will always stay loyal.
Yes,
somehow.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because you feel also. I think what I'm doing right now.
But if you only do an English album, maybe you also feel like that's not entirely.
Because that's not me
your
either.
Identity as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
I think what I'm doing right now, like it's been only 4 years that I'm trying to like release more songs in Farsi, and I think the main reason it's not about the aesthetics, because if you feel that you're good enough to share your art with people, why wouldn't you want to do it with your with people?
And interestingly, I mean, just judging by your Spotify listens and stuff, it's the Persian stuff that seems to connect more with the audience than the English. But maybe that's just because more recently you've been doing Persian stuff.
No, I think that decision definitely opened a door for me. There's a huge market. I mean, I'm not gonna hide it.
There's less competition than in English.
Definitely, definitely.
English is obviously a much bigger market, but you're competing with the world then all of a sudden. There's a concept to this record. Describe it.
It's a story of the main theme behind it. It's just the concept behind it. It's just that the meaning of love that we were given when in our early years, when we were like child, as a kid, it's like too romanticized and too idealized, and in real life it doesn't match the like you realize that it doesn't exist that way. The romanticized image of love doesn't have anything to do with real love, you know. And I think like growing older, I'm more and more I'm finding out about this, that the lovey-dovey feelings, they don't have anything to do with like deep connection. There's something that they just fade away right away. They're all based on hormones and the immediate chemistry that fades away, and then you feel really disappointed, and then based on that disappointment and frustration, you have poor judgment. So that's basically, there are like 10 songs, and each song talks about one of these phases. It starts with the ego, like you're the center of your own world. And then this ego in the second track gets smashed by another ego. So you grow fever for someone else, like you sickly fall in love for someone else in an obsessed way. In the third track, you start to grow expectations because of that lovey-dovey feeling. And the fourth track, it's just you're disappointed because that's guaranteed, because when you start to grow expectations, right afterwards comes the frustration. So, and it just goes on.
What happens at the end?
At the end,
you're sitting alone in the corner of a room weeping.
Yeah, right. More or less.
Why did I know? I knew it was going to end badly.
I think no. It ends.
No great record about love can end happy.
No. The tone of the album is not a pessimistic tone, like at all. Like it's
a happy record about not being able to find love. Yeah.
It's a pretty exciting. He's like so excited about it.
Right.
Yay!
Eureka! I'm alone again.
What do you got to offer?
What is the name of the album?
It's The Psychology of Letting Go. It's called Honar Bi Khiyal Shodan.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is it in English or in Persian?
I'm going to put both titles, actually.
The Psychology of Letting Go.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Wow, this is it's like a half cool new record, half 10-step program for jilted, for sad lovers, for unrequited love.
But letting go, that meaning that you should let a story go or let a person go.
And
like
you can
letting
do that?
go. I think I'm the worst person. I'm learning. I'm learning.
Right. Well, there's a new album coming out that you should listen to called The Psychology of Letting Go. Yeah.
I think you learn it through life. You just train yourself.
You gotta.
Yeah, you have to
keep moving forward at some point.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But sometimes you cannot, and then there's the problem. Like,
well, I was going to say it's been a real pleasure talking to you, but I'm kind of depressed now, so I'm not sure
sorry,
how much of a pleasure it's been. No, it's very good to have you here, man. Thanks for doing. I'm so excited that we got to do this in person rather than on Zoom or something like that. You happen to be in Toronto. You're in mid-tour, and it's a pleasure to have you here. So you're going to play us out with a song. So is it from the new record?
Yeah.
What are you going to play in your bones, or what are you going to play?
No, I'm gonna play just the first track of the album.
Okay.
For the first time. I mean, I've never played it anywhere else.
Really?
I played in the London show, but not
I'm excited.
on any program or.
Fantastic. What's it called?
It's called Man in Persian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah, me. It's completely in Persian, but it's there's an English part in the middle, which basically is a translation of Fitzgerald.
F.
Translated, like
the Gatsby.
No, not the Gatsby. No, the guy who translated Khayyam.
Oh,
like he was a genius. I don't know if you've ever read those translations, but they're like really marvelous, like really cool. And so
I've only ever read Khayyam in English. Would that be the translation I've read then, or are there different translations?
I think it's the same that you read.
Probably, yeah. So I probably have read.
Yeah, there are not many translations, like different versions. Okay. I think it's probably the same. And I'm using the song talks about the human being's ego, like in general. So every track is from a different point of view. Like there's a different character, like, who finds himself in one of those phases that we were talking about before. This one is like human being in general, like destroying.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it. This is Peyman Salimi debuting the world premiere here, at least in that sort of a broadcast sense, of a new song called Man from his forthcoming new record, The Psychology of Letting Go, that comes out in the fall. This is Peyman Salimi live in the Roqe Studio.
از همه بهتریم، از همه سرتریم، بلای جان ما شد این قشر خاکستری، پرچم افتخار بر کره ما زدیم، صحبت دل که شد دلو به خواب زدیم. بگو من بدون تو چجوری سر کنم، این همه تناقض حرف کیو باور کنم، اشرف مخلوقات این همه معلومات، پیله تنهایی تو عصر ارتباطات، رحمی نکرده به هم نوعان خود، انسان به بند کشیم حیوان که جای خود. بگو من بدون تو چجوری سر کنم، این همه تناقض حرف کیو باور کنم، اسیری تو چنگ یه مش قدرت طلب، دیگه مهم نیست من که گذشته آب از سرم. Those who we meet in churches, divinity colleges or temples, desire heaven and fear hell. But there's a story they can't tell. Those who we meet in churches, divinity colleges or temples, desire heaven and fear hell. But there's a story they can't tell. از روز اولین غرقه باوریم، خدامون بی همتاست، این ماییم که برتریم، کره مادریم، نفسی واپسیم، بر زخم او زنیم با مشتی آهنین. حالا من بدون تو چجوری سر کنم وقتی همش دروغه، حرف کیو باور کنم؟ اسیری تو چنگ یه مش قدرت طلب، دیگه مهم نیست من که گذشته آب از سرم.
Live in the Roqe Studio, debuting the song from his new record, the first song, the first track on the new record, The Psychology of Letting Go. That's Peyman Salimi and the song Man. Thank you, man.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure. I wish you the best in the rest of the tour, and I can't wait for the new record.
Thank you.
Cheers, brother.
Right.
Peyman Salimi, an Iranian-Italian singer-songwriter, guitarist, music producer. He is currently on tour across North America with Ali Azimi. Peyman Salimi joined us here in the Roqe Studio today. That's full time for Roqe for today. Did you enjoy that, Shaya?
Yeah, I love it.
Well done, Peyman. For all things Roqe, you can go to our website, roqemedia.com. roqemedia.com, ROQE media.com, where you can find all of our previous episodes, our guests, our Roqe videos, our different programs. roqemedia.com. Thanks again to the amazing team who put this show together. Savi Roham, talented Anahita, Ponta the artist, the fabulous Keon Smart Pega, Super Patty Saw, Ahai Merdad, Captain Reza, and Groovy Shaya. Thank you to Hamid Reza Safipour and Ali Gambari. Thank you to all of you out there for supporting us and sharing our content. Please subscribe if you've not done so already. Find me on Instagram at Jian Ghomeshi and Mizun Bashi.